We do want to introduce the gentleman who you see standing next to us. Let's do some analysis now on these election results. We turn to UW River Falls political professor Neil Krause. Professor, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You've been with us since the very early morning today. So
early day today, yeah.
We appreciate you getting up early. So Wisconsin ended up being the decider in all this.
It did. I think all along, we knew that Wisconsin was going to be close. We knew Pennsylvania, Michigan were going to be close. I mean, all the swing states really. And I think one thing that is surprising is that the result is definitive now, when many of us were thinking perhaps not until Thursday or Friday this week, if maybe beyond that. So that's a bit of a surprise. But yeah, Wisconsin is very close, and we're seeing that play out now.
What do you make of the fact that Kamala Harris hasn't conceded yet? Hasn't come out and said anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that well, I don't have any inside information, but my sense is they're trying to write a speech that is probably one of the more important speeches we've had in modern American history. What exactly to say. So I doubt that there's any debate, behind the snées. Did she really win this state, or
you don't think they're reading too much into that?
No, I mean, my hunch is I can't believe that's happening. I think that they're going to really craft this speech, and they're going through every single word and probably getting a lot of input from a lot of people.
Why do you think she didn't do better?
Great question. I think a number of things came together. I think the obvious thing that didn't get as much attention in advance is that she's a woman, and this is the United States, and sexism is still very much alive and well, unfortunately. I think that the Democrats' message on the economy was probably not as forceful as it should have been. I think, I mean, one of the things that sort of strikes me is that a lot of people, vote fear and vote, anxiety, and those are big motivators in life, not just in politics. And I'm not suggesting that Harris and Walz should have gone that route, but I think that recognizing people's economic anxiety probably would have been better for the Democrats at the end of the day. Whether or not that could have made up for the fact that it's very tough for female candidates. We saw this in 2016. We're seeing this again today, a black female candidate. One thing too, I mean, Barack Obama, we have to remember the context in which he got elected. I mean, the stock market fell off a cliff in the fall of 2008. I mean, people had lost half their retirement accounts. And John McCain came out and said the fundamentals of the economy are strong. He said that in the fall of 2008. That was the end of that campaign, and any Democrat would have beaten any Republican. I'm not disparaging Obama. He's a great candidate, great speaker, charismatic guy, but that was economic fear. And then all the birtherism stuff came out after, right? Came out in 2009, in 2010, and Trump had a big part in that. So I think the economic theme is really going to be the big one going forward for the Dems. I mean, I would think so.
Well, the stock market's reacting this morning. All the markets are just blowing up right now.
Right.
Which somebody could say something either way, because a lot of times it's just any winner in the presidential election, and the markets at least have an idea of what way they're going to move. But obviously, investors are reacting positively that Donald Trump is going to be the winner here.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's not too surprising to me. I think that, you have people like Elon Musk and other, millionaires, billionaires backing Trump for a reason. And tax cuts, deregulation that will save business a lot of money. Trump made some very explicit promises to the energy industry. That's well documented, and he never refuted that. So I'm not too surprised that there's a rally on Wall Street, and I would expect perhaps in the next days and weeks it might continue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the Senate a little bit. It looks like the House has flipped a little bit.
Right.
At the nation's capital. Big deal or not a big deal in your eyes?
Well, the Senate, it will be a majority Republican Party. They won't get to 60 senators, and that would be a much bigger deal because of the filibuster in the Senate, the potential to really block legislation unless it has 60 votes. Not that it's, getting less than 60 is not significant. It is, but I don't know what the final count is going to be. We have to look at those numbers, but they will have a majority. It will certainly facilitate what President Trump wants to do. I don't think there's any question about that.
So Republicans now have the Senate. The House is still up for grabs, and the presidency obviously is a Republican.
Right.
So if it turns out that you have Republicans in control of both chambers of Congress, and the president's seat, what do Democrats do? Because it feels like the Republicans can kind of run the table with all kinds of legislation if they've got all three of them.
Well, I'm reminded of the phrase, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because, are you really going to try to repeal Obamacare? Are you really going to go after Social Security? Which that'll be the most interesting question for me, Social Security and Medicare. Trump personally insisted that your Social Security, your Medicare is safe, yet his donors have been trying to repeal those programs ever since they were enacted. So, I don't know how that really goes. I think there'll be some things. I'm not minimizing that, but to try to do the whole agenda that not so much that Trump was arguing for some of it, but mostly his donors like Musk. Musk, you listen to him, he wants to get rid of a significant portion of the federal government. That would be catastrophic for lots and lots of people, including millions, tens of millions of Trump's own voters. So it remains to be seen. How much, how much they're going to do. They're certainly going to do things, right? They're going to do a lot of things. But there are a lot of pressures, pushing back from within their own coalition. So we'll have to see.
What do you see as far as the future of Governor Tim Walz? We all knew of him. Now the nation 100 days ago learned about him, and I feel like he did pretty well out there. He wasn't really a decisive person either way. I think people were open to him and connected with him on some level. Do we see him coming back and just being governor? Do you think he has bigger political aspirations? Do we see him down the line in another campaign?
I think for now he's going to come back and be governor, and my sense is I have no idea. Again, I don't have any contact with Governor Walz, but I think he's probably trying to think that through, and his people are trying to think that through. He's a major national figure now. So, if you look at people who've run for president and vice president in the past 50 or 60 years, a lot of times they do it 2, 3, 4 times. Nixon comes to mind, but others did as well. I'm not necessarily saying he'll run, but he might, because now he's ahead of so many other people in the Democratic Party because now he has name recognition all over the country. So he's probably weighing a lot of different things, I would imagine, right now. Yeah.
Professor, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
He's been here, if those of you to watch the morning news, he's been here since very early this morning, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can watch 5 Eyewitness News midday at 11 o'clock for continuing coverage on election results. We'll also have more analysis from Professor Krauss.
For what it's worth, turnout for in-person voting in Minnesota was steady all election day because of early voting. Like this particular polling place, pretty quiet. There were no long lines, and most of the voters got in and out in just a matter of minutes.
It was super easy this year, so we walked in, did our thing, got out of there. It was no stress and no fuss, so it was a really great experience this time around.
The Minnesota Secretary of State's office says more than 1.2 million Minnesotans voted by absentee and mail-in ballots before the polls even opened.
All right, still to come here this morning, we are making popular fall drinks, and we're showing you at home how to do it as well. But first, a peek into the history of your home. How a Minnesota couple created a website to help you learn and share the history of where you live.
Today's Wednesday. It is November 6th, 2024. Another live look this morning at the Mississippi River in Brainerd. We appreciate you watching Minnesota Live.